He had lung cancer, and the cancer had spread, and he had received a terminal diagnosis. And at first he did not think he needed chaplain services. He was not an overtly religious man. Neither he nor his family participated in church. But over the course of a few visits, our nurses and social workers talked to him and found out that he was a Chicago Cubs fan, and so am I. And he thought that might be nice to have a friend who would come and be able to sit with him and talk about something he was interested in. Well, as we went along, it became clear that he was interested in having his interest in baseball and the Cubs be represented at his funeral in very clear ways. And so as we went along, he talked about wanting to have a Cubs jersey on as he was lying in his casket. He had a little Cubs bear that he used to keep on his desk at work that played Take Me Out to the Ball Game, and he wanted that on his casket. One night I was having trouble sleeping, and I kept having this vision in my mind of this patient and his family and someone coming to their door and greeting them, and it turned out that it was a player from the Cubs dressed in his uniform. And I just couldn't get this picture out of my mind, and ended up staying up most of the night just thinking about that. The next morning, I do have a friend who has connections with the Cubs, and so I called him and said, this is a very strange request, but he understands what I do, and I said, could we possibly get some kind of a contact from a Cubs player for this patient? And he said, I'll see what I can do. Then the next day, Jack became non-responsive, and I heard that and decided to go out to his home. And on my way there, I received a call from a friend of my friend who was out at batting practice with the Cubs that day. And he said, what do you need? And I told him, and so he went out and got one of the players, Ryan Terrio, who's their shortstop. And just as I arrived at the house, the phone rang, and Ryan was on the phone, and the patient who had been non-responsive actually woke up and was able to listen and to talk a little bit with him. Originally I thought, well, he's only going to be able to listen and they'll have to hold the phone up to his ear. But he was able to talk, and he was able to share a little bit about his condition and what was happening. And on the other end of the phone I could hear Ryan saying, well, you know, we're all pulling for you, and we're going to try to win tonight and play hard for you. And at the very end of the conversation, the patient said, well, you better go out there and get him, and that's an order. And that was the last thing he said that I heard. Well, they had asked me to perform the funeral, to officiate it. So I have a Cubs polo shirt, so I asked him if I could wear that, and they said yes. And as I came, all of the family was dressed in Cubs jerseys and hats. And they even have some friends from Illinois who are Cardinals fans, and the Cubs and the Cardinals are big rivals. But even the Cardinals fans wore Cubs jerseys for him that day. And he was in his casket, dressed in a Cubs jersey, just as we had talked about. And so we did some of the things they had asked for in the service, and actually ended the service with singing Take Me Out to the Ball Game. And as we were singing that, I noticed off to the side that some of the grandchildren were slipping out of the room, and I wasn't sure what was going on. But afterwards I found out that they had gone to the door to greet everybody as they were leaving and handed out Cracker Jacks, which is of course one of the lines from Take Me Out to the Ball Game. And so they celebrated their grandpa's passing the way he wanted. I think sometimes I had preconceived ideas of going in and doing certain things that are spiritual and praying with people and reading the Bible and things like that. But as I've worked with patients, and especially with this patient, I've come to realize that one of the most important things I do is to try to take interest in things that they're interested in, so that I can meet them where they are and we can have a good connection, and they can have a friend during this last season of their life.